Cyberpunk 2077 had a very turbulent launch back in 2020, as it was riddled with bugs, performance issues, and a lot of unmet expectations. In fact, it got so bad that Sony actually pulled it from their store and offered a refund to all players who had purchased the game. But now, 5 years and multiple updates and DLCs later, is it worth starting over again in the game or even jumping into it for the very first time? So let's go ahead and find out. Just a quick disclaimer here, this video contains no spoilers for either the main story of the game, the side quests, or the story in Phantom Liberty DLC, and everything I mention you'll come across within the first few hours of the game. Now let's start with being bang up to date with everything surrounding Cyberpunk at the moment, because in the last few months alone, the game has been given a couple of new major updates with a massive 2.2 patch which was released in December of 2024, and the more recent 2.21 update which was released in January of this year. Now the 2.2 patch was called Express Yourself, and that basically translates to players being able to express themselves more within the game. Two of the standout features allow players to change the colour of their cars in a far more detailed way using an upgraded vehicle customization user interface, and a really neat addition that came with it was the new twin tone feature, which basically lets players scan literally any car in Night City and then apply that car's paint job to your own car. Like, the idea behind it basically means if you're exploring Night City and you see a car that you like the paint job of, you can scan it, save it to a database, and then apply it to any of your cars. I mean, not only does that add a little paint job collecting feature to the game, but it also adds the exploration side of the game as well, because you can now just go out and hunt for cars that you like the look of and then grab their paint job, basically. Pretty neat addition if you ask me. And do you know what's even better about this feature? Like, let's say you're being chased by the cops. If you manage to break your line of sight, like even for a matter of seconds, let's say you go down an alleyway or in a building or whatever, if you change the colour of your vehicle, you'll fade out your heat level and be able to drive away scot-free as though nothing happened. Little tip right there. Alongside those paint jobs, like the 10 previously unavailable cars that have been added to the Autofix website for you so you can buy them, I think 8 of these were from the base game and 2 were from the Phantom Liberty DLC, and now our good friend Johnny Silverhand, played by the legendary Keanu Reeves, he now spawns more often next to you in the car. Like, I think it's like 25% of the time now, unless you're in a gunfight, of course. And he'll just sit there throwing insults, further adding to the immersion of the game by reinforcing the fact that he is, in fact, stuck inside V's head. Also, in these recent updates, the photo mode in the game has been improved with the use of a drone for a bigger, wider range. And there's features you can do, such as disabling collisions, adding new lighting, and you can spawn a couple of NPCs, I think it's up to 3, from a list of 20 characters taken from the base game and Phantom Liberty, including one Adam Smasher. If you want all the details on the latest updates, you can read the entire patch notes online, so I'm not going to rattle every single thing off in this video. But the last main major update with the 2.2 patch would be the character creator, because that's given us a whopping 112 new assets available to customize V, making it far more in-depth character creator in general, even though it's pretty good in the first place. And last but not least, the later patch, so 2.21, that basically added enhancements and fixes for the main 2.2 patch, so you can rest assured that in 2025, CD Projekt Red are still updating and still fixing Cyberpunk to leave it in the best possible place. Like, these latest updates, along with some of them that have come before it, have introduced even more mechanics that improve the already impressive immersion within the game, and not to mention improved AI behaviours, making NPCs even more reactive. So all in all, it makes Night City and the surrounding area feel more alive than ever. And unlike a lot of these games these days, Cyberpunk values depth over scale. So even though Night City and the surrounding area is a significantly smaller explorable area than a lot of open world games you'll come across these days, but by God is it full of stuff. Like, I think it's probably one of the most dense and richly detailed gaming worlds you'll ever come across, whereas so every street, side alley, building has something going on with its own story to tell. For me, I think more games should be focusing on this sort of depth rather than scale, because some open world games these days are just full of either nothingness or bloat, to be completely honest. Like, they're big for the sake of being big, whereas CD Projekt Red have made Night City feel truly alive. Like, there are multiple instances when you can be undertaking what seems to be a really generic side gig. So, for example, let's say you have to go to a location and assassinate a target. Well, sometimes this can quickly transform into something far more in depth with a lot of wacky shit going down. And nowhere is this more perfect an example than the side job Cinnamon. I'm not going to go into the detail because I don't want to be giving any spoilers in this video, but if you've got Cinnamon side gig, you've not done it yet, give it a play, guys. In 2025, Cyberpunk 2077 is probably one of, if not the best sci-fi RPGs out there to date, and the latest updates allow you to have even more customization, so not only V's appearance in greater depth, but you can customize his or her playstyle quite significantly as well. Talking like a large number of builds that you can focus on, so maybe you want to go down the melee combat route, maybe you prefer ranged weapons, or maybe you want to have a surplus of cyberware. It really is a lot of freedom, but really I think it's something more than just a sci-fi action RPG because it's one of the best explorations of the cyberpunk themes in a video game going. So it explores things like the depth of corporate power, transhumanism where players and NPCs routinely augment their bodies with cybernetics, which to a larger extent can raise questions about what it's like to be a human in this game world. It really is a pretty deep game. Like, these cybernetics that players can add aren't just a gimmick or a small feature of the game because they can seriously improve your combat and hacking abilities, albeit with risks involved because they push limits of V's humanity, and the Phantom Liberty DLC, whilst being utterly amazing by the way, also doubles down on these ideas. Again, I won't go into spoilers for that in this video, like if you haven't played the DLC, but the depth of the story in Cyberpunk is significant, and you can change the way it plays out as you progress throughout the game by making decisions one way or the other. Some players deem some decisions as wrong, some players deem some decisions as right, but either way, you could be locked out of storylines or even story endings within the game, depending on which way you decide to go when you get the choice. So what better time than now to give it another go by making maybe different decisions to the last time you played through, just kind of to see what happens and what is different, basically. But anyway, you probably want to know what has been improved in Cyberpunk in recent times. Well, one criticism some players had back in the day, well, when it was first released, was like the RPG mechanics that I've just gone about felt a little bit, well, limited. But recent updates and others that came before it have significantly improved character progression, combat, customization options, alongside the reworked skill tree, which makes these builds more distinct and rewarding. In fact, if anything, if you take the generic approach to building your skills up like I have done in my most recent playthrough, like just out of pure curiosity, I feel like you sort of get punished and locked out of some really awesome abilities by doing this. So it really does matter which sort of, you need to have a focus basically. You don't want to be a jack of all trades and a master of none in Cyberpunk because it makes the game more difficult. Or maybe just less fun. Like, some other recent improvements can be seen around the police and the wanted system in the game, because originally it was seen as a bit of a weak point. So previously you could just evade the cops and lose your wanted level by hiding for a few seconds down a small alleyway or in a warehouse or whatever. But now your wanted level escalates naturally. So for example, if you committed a crime in a high security area, you can end up in a serious firefight coming up against max TAC units. So you best be damn well prepared for stuff like that. And vehicle combat, once actually omitted from the game entirely, is now fully integrated, and players can get involved in high-speed shootouts, which are great fun and dangerous, but more so fun. Overall, unless you've been living under a rock in recent years, it is well known that Cyberpunk 2077 has undergone one of the most impressive comebacks in gaming history, perhaps rivaled only by No Man's Sky, which was also a buggy, underperforming mess riddled with glitches and unmet expectations. And now Cyberpunk is a fully fledged open world role-playing experience in one of the most immersive settings you'll find in gaming today. Like, Cyberpunk in the year 2025 serves as a great testament to CD Projekt Red's commitment to delivering the game as it was originally promised, and whilst the game fell flat on its face initially, its evolution over the past few years, and even more recently in recent months with the latest updates, has totally transformed the game into a standout experience, and one I would highly recommend revisiting with a fresh perspective or even playing it for the very first time. Like, the game now delivers on its ambitious promise, proving that even the most disastrous of launches can lead, eventually, to something truly epic. Well, there you have it, folks. There is why I believe you should revisit Cyberpunk 2077 this year, if you haven't done so yet, or play it for the very first time, because it's still getting updates. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you are still here, it would be totally awesome if you could support my channel by hitting those like and subscribe buttons. You can now become a channel member as well, and as always, thank you for watching this video, and I hope to catch you in my next one.